for the hardest-hitting show in talk radio. The true progressive voice since 2012. This is Southpaws.
And welcome to Southpaws on the Pacifica Radio Network. We are the leaders of the revolution. I'm Darren Gibson. We have to talk about the latest shootings in this country. Now it's become essentially a crime to be in the wrong place at the wrong time, especially if somebody's got a gun. The latest shootings have just got me so upset. We'll talk about those in just a little bit. We have a update from Ottawa County. The health department officer is going to keep her job for the time being, and we'll give you all the details about that. We also have to talk about a physical confrontation that took place at a Michigan Republican Party leadership meeting. We've got audio from it. You have got to hear this. Plus, double hammer time segments this week, both of them tied to Michigan. Oh boy, we've got a lot to cover. Before we start with today's topics, a couple of reminders that you can follow us on social media by going to facebook.com/Southpaws Radio Show. You can follow us on Twitter at Southpaws Radio. You can follow us on Tumblr at southpawsradioshow.tumblr.com. You can follow us on YouTube and Mastodon by doing a search for Southpaws Radio. And you can become a patron of the show by going to patreon.com/Southpaws Radio. You can listen to the show anytime at Apple Podcasts, Spreaker, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, Podcast Addict, Podvine, and Pandora by doing a search for Southpaws. Once you found our logo, you found us. We send links to our weekly episodes to our Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, YouTube, and Mastodon accounts. You can listen to us on Global Community Radio Channel 1 every Saturday night at 11 Eastern. And you can listen to us on great Pacifica stations, including KCEI in Taos, New Mexico, KZGM in Kabul, Missouri, and KEPJ in San Antonio, Texas. So be sure to listen to your favorite Pacifica station. And if they're not carrying us, give them a call or reach out to them via email, and please ask them to start airing Southpaws. We would appreciate that. We're recording this show on Thursday, April 20th, so for those of you that celebrate 420, happy 420. I want to start out with the shootings that have pretty much stunned this entire country, and for that matter, the world. This is just unreal. I want to read this recap. This was published by the Associated Press on April 19th. In the span of 6 days, 4 young people across the U.S. have been shot, one fatally, for making one of the most ordinary and unavoidable mistakes in everyday life, showing up at the wrong place. A man shot and wounded 2 cheerleaders outside a Texas supermarket early Tuesday after one of them said she mistakenly got into his car thinking it was her own. A group of people looking for a friend's house in upstate New York arrived in the wrong driveway only for one of them to be shot to death Saturday night. In Missouri last Thursday, a Kansas City teen was shot twice after going to the wrong home to pick up his younger brothers, raising questions about the state's stand your ground law and heightening racial tensions. So here's a recap of everything that's happened in the last week or so. First, the shooting in Kansas City. 16-year-old honor student Ralph Yarl mixed up the address when he went to pick up his twin brothers on Thursday night. Instead of going to 115th Terrace, he showed up at the home of 84-year-old Andrew Lester. Lester, who is white, told police he had just gotten in bed when he heard the doorbell. Before answering, he grabbed his revolver. Lester said he then saw Yarl, who is black, pulling on the storm door handle, something Yarl disputes according to the probable cause statement against Lester. Lester told police he thought the teen was attempting to break into the home and he was scared to death, according to his statement. Without saying a word, Lester fired twice. Jarl said the first shot struck him in the head, knocking him to the ground. As he laid there, the second bullet pierced his arm. In the probable cause statement, Jarl told police he fled as the homeowner yelled, quote, "Don't come around here," end of quote. Lester was charged with first-degree assault Monday and turned himself in. Some civil rights leaders have called for a hate crime charge, but Clay County prosecuting attorney Zachary Thompson said first-degree assault is a higher-level crime with a longer sentence, up to life in prison. The wounded teen is recovering at home. His mother, Cleo Nagbe, said the trauma is evident. She told CBS Morning's co-host Gail King that her son mostly, quote, just sits there and stares and the buckets of tears just roll down his eyes, end of quote. Legal experts believe Lester's lawyers will claim self-defense under Missouri's Stand Your Ground law, which allows for the use of deadly force if a person fears for his or her life. Missouri is one of roughly 30 states with such statutes. St. Louis defense attorney Nina McDonald said prosecutors have a strong case, but the Stand Your Ground defense is a huge hurdle to overcome. But Ari Freilich, an attorney and state policy director with the Giffords Law Center to Prevent Gun Violence, said nothing in the law, quote, allows someone to shoot first and ask questions later when someone innocently rings a doorbell, end of quote. The second shooting happened in upstate New York. 20-year-old Kaylin Gillis was traveling through the rural town of Hebron with 3 other people Saturday night, one of them being her boyfriend, by the way, when the group turned onto a property that was not the friend's house they were looking for. Authorities said that they were met with gunfire in the driveway. The group was trying to turn the car around when the homeowner, 65-year-old Kevin Monahan, came out onto his porch and fired 2 shots, according to Washington County Sheriff Jeffrey Murphy. 1 round hit Gillis, killing her. They drove to the neighboring town of Salem near the Vermont state line and called 911, according to Murphy, who noted that the area around Hebron has limited cell phone service. Monahan was booked into the Warren County Jail on a charge of second-degree murder. By the way, that happened after a 1-hour standoff with the cops when they showed up. It wasn't clear whether he had an attorney who could speak on his behalf. Murphy said at a news conference Monday that there was, quote, no reason for Mr. Monahan to feel threatened, end of quote. By the way, New York does not have a Stand Your Ground law. The third shooting happened in Texas. A man shot and wounded 2 cheerleaders in a supermarket parking lot after one of them said she mistakenly got into his car thinking it was her own. The shooting in Elgin, east of Austin, happened early Tuesday in an area that serves as a carpool pickup spot for members of the Woodlands Elite Cheer Company. That's according to team owner Lynn Shearer. Cheerleader Heather Roth said she got out of her friend's car and into a vehicle she thought was hers, but there was a stranger in the passenger seat, according to a televised report by KTRK. She said she panicked and got back into her friend's car, but the man got out of his vehicle and approached. She said she tried to apologize through her friend's car window, but the man threw his hands up, pulled out a gun, and opened fire. Roth was grazed by a bullet and treated at the scene, according to police. Her 18-year-old teammate, Peyton Washington, was shot in the leg and back. Washington was flown to a hospital in critical condition. Police arrested 25-year-old Pedro Tello Rodriguez Jr., who was charged with engaging in deadly conduct, a third-degree felony. Online court records do not list an attorney for him. No, he needs to be charged with first-degree attempted murder. I don't know what the hell is wrong with people, but folks, think before you start shooting a gun, please. You know, I go back and forth on having super strict gun laws, taking guns away from people. But the only thing that stops me from it is Donald Trump getting back into office and trying to become a tyrant again. But really, folks, somebody turns around in your driveway and you come out with a gun? Somebody gets into your car accidentally and you go after him with a gun? Somebody rings your doorbell or knocks on your door? We talked about the story of probably a year or 2 ago about a girl that was shot in the head right off a porch because she knocked on the door. By the way, she was black and the homeowner was white, just like in Kansas City. If I remember, that story happened in Detroit. Doesn't matter, though. The thing is, folks, knock it off. Think before you shoot. I'll just say it right here. You know what would solve a lot of this, besides getting rid of the guns? As far as a lot of the violent crime, you give people good-paying jobs, good-paying enough that they can afford a house, a car, food, clothing, and save money. And if they can do all that, then we're going to have a better society. Instead, we've got the richest 1% of this country hoarding the wealth while the rest of us are living paycheck to paycheck or out and out starving. And it's ridiculous. Absolutely uncalled for. All right, I want to get to our next story here. This is an exclusive report. This was published by Rolling Stone magazine, dated April 19th. This was written by Jana Winter. Listen to this, folks. The Department of Homeland Security intelligence official in charge of tracking cross-border threats was escorted from his office on Monday by federal police and security after an afternoon search that left his office sealed with crime tape. That's according to 4 sources with direct knowledge of the events. The official in question is Brian Sulk, executive director of the Transnational Organized Crime Mission Center at DHS's Office of Intelligence and Analysis in Washington. Sulk has been placed on administrative leave. He is under investigation for an alleged security violation, bringing a personal electronic device inside the secure office where phones and electronic devices are prohibited. He has not been arrested nor charged with a crime. At about 4:15 p.m. Monday, 3 squad cars from the Federal Protective Service, a DHS law enforcement body tasked with protecting the department and federal buildings, drove into DHS's Northwest Washington complex with flashing lights. The FPS officers joined security on the 3rd floor of the secure building to secure Sulk's office. While they were doing the search, Sulk was escorted out of the building, flanked by security and FPS, and taken to a different location on the DHS campus for questioning. That's according to 2 sources. The office has been sealed shut with crime tape, and evidence seals were placed around the door and across the keyhole so no one can enter. Sulk is in charge of the office that produces intelligence assessments on border security, the opioid epidemic, and other high-stakes policy issues. Those assessments include intelligence on how fentanyl is crossing into the United States, as well as attempts to identify cartel members and human trafficking operatives on both sides of the border. They're used to inform policy decisions at the highest level of DHS and elsewhere in the Biden administration. One source with direct knowledge of the search of Sulk's office said, quote, "He is a big deal. He does the border, all the big issues and crises. This is why this is all so shocking." End of quote. Sulk is a career official who has held the post since March 2022, according to his LinkedIn profile. He has worked for DHS since September 2008. Sulk did not respond to emails, calls, texts, or voice messages left on his phone and cell phone numbers. His work cell phone voicemail box was full, and he did not respond to a LinkedIn message. Asked about Sulk, a DHS official tells Rolling Stone magazine, quote, "DHS is committed to ensuring all operational security protocols are followed and is conducting an inquiry into a reported security incident. DHS will not comment on ongoing internal investigations. DHS conducts its national security mission with adherence to the highest standards." End of quote. On Sulk's LinkedIn, he describes the Mission Center as the lead program that prepares all source assessments for the DHS Secretary, the department's daily intelligence briefings. His profile says in his current role, he prepares strategic assessments on transnational organized crime, border security, and terrorist travel threats for DHS operational and policy components. for senior customers in the intelligence community and state, local, tribal, and private sector stakeholders in the Homeland Security mission. Salk testified before the House Committee on Homeland Security on March 18, 2022, on his office's role in the Biden administration's National Drug Control Strategy Team to combat the opioid epidemic. Salk reports to Ken Weinstein, the DHS Undersecretary for Intelligence and Analysis. Weinstein reports to DHS Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas, who is scheduled to testify Wednesday morning before the House Homeland Security Committee in a hearing titled A Review of the Fiscal Year 2024 Budget Request for the Department of Homeland Security. So there you go, folks. Oh, we'll have to stay on top of that. That's good reporting from Rolling Stone magazine. Right now, let's get to our next segment. Oh, yeah, you know what that music means. And now, Hochter and Ramble present As Ottawa County Turns. Brought to you by Ivory Soap. Because you have to be as pale as a bar of soap to live in Ottawa County. To safely live in Ottawa County. I forgot to put safely in there. Oh, I love it. This is great stuff. All right, I have this from Sarah Leach at the Holland Sentinel. This is dated April 18th. Ottawa County's health officer will remain in her position for now. Yes, indeed. Oh, I love it. I love this. Muskegon County 14th Circuit Court Judge Jenny L. McNeil granted Adeline Hambley a preliminary injunction Tuesday, April 18th, which will allow Hambley to remain in her position until a trial can take place over the myriad of claims that she made that Ottawa Impact-linked commissioners have repeatedly interfered with her ability to do her job. Hambley filed her lawsuit February 13th in Ottawa County's 20th Circuit Court, claiming the commissioners overreached their authority by attempting to limit her state-authorized health duties, including standing in the way of critical contracts the county has with local health providers. A key dispute was whether Hambley's appointment is binding to the new board, which is now controlled by Ottawa Impact. And we've told you about Ottawa Impact in the past. They're a bunch of right-wing cuckoos. So Hambley sued 7 individual defendants in the lawsuit, including Board Chair Joe Moss and Vice Chair Sylvia Rodea. But now the original complaint has been amended to add the Ottawa County Board at Large. Judge McNeil granted a temporary restraining order just days after Ottawa Impact commissioners made a correction to a resolution the former board approved on December 13th, appointing Hambley to the role after Lisa Stefanovsky announced in August that she was planning to retire as health officer in the spring. By the way, that correction was made in violation of Michigan's Open Meetings Act. You cannot change the minutes of the meeting once they have been approved by the board. Period. End of story. The Ottawa Impact Commissioners argue the resolution approving Hambley's appointment, quote, did not accurately reflect the actual motion and vote that took place at the meeting, end of quote, because there were wording discrepancies between the written resolution and the verbal motion made by one of the commissioners prior to the unanimous vote to appoint Hambley. Coleman Legal Group, which is now representing the county, said the written resolution the previous board approved wasn't in front of commissioners when they voted to appoint Hambley, and further alleged former board chair Matt Fensky and county clerk Justin Roebuck later changed the written resolution in private, which he asserted was a violation of the state's Open Meetings Act. McNeil said in a ruling that was, quote, a misinterpretation of the events, end of quote. McNeil wrote in a ruling, quote, the board approved the appointment of Hambley as Ottawa County Administrative Health Officer at the December 13, 2022 meeting by unanimous vote. The only remaining contingencies at that point in time were confirmation by the MDHHS and passing the county's background check process. End of quote. Hambley's attorney, Sarah Riley Howard, said in her filings that Hambley's position grants her certain powers through the state and that her position is of a just cause nature, where the supervising authority, the Board of Commissioners, would need to provide a reason or cause to fire her and could only do so after a public hearing where she could be represented by legal counsel. McNeil agreed, saying if the commissioners want to fire Hambley, they must follow outlined procedures in the law to do so. That aspect of the judge's decision reaffirms previous legal opinions provided to the county by former corporate counsel Doug Van Essen and former state attorney general Mike Cox. Fenske did not respond to the Sentinel's request for comment. Roebuck refuted the claims Kallman made in court. In an emailed statement to the Holland Sentinel, Roebuck wrote, quote, I am awaiting a copy of the transcript from the court proceedings to verify the exact language that was stated in court before I respond further to Mr. Kallman's claims. However, I categorically deny the allegation that I or any member of my team violated the Open Meetings Act or acted unethically in any way in the conduct of our normal business while processing this resolution. End of quote. No, what he's really waiting for is he's waiting to get a hold of the transcript, because if Kallman made the claims that he is reported to have, Roebuck has very strong grounds for a defamation lawsuit against the county and against Kallman Law Group. I love it. McNeil said in her ruling there was no case law provided by the defendants to show the December resolution was invalid. McNeil wrote, quote, the motion passed, the board had the resolution in front of them. The court has not been provided any authority for this argument. There is no logical reason for the board to vote twice on this issue. A common sense reading of the motion and resolution are that the plaintiff was appointed as the health director. End of quote. She denied both sides' requests for summary judgments in their respective favor, with the exception of the preliminary injunction because there are disputes over the facts that surround the case. McNeil denied Kallman's request to sanction Hambley, saying her lawsuit was not frivolous. McNeil also denied Kallman's request for a stay of the proceedings, an action taken by a court to stop a legal proceeding or the actions of a party. Kallman is expected to appeal the judge's ruling. A trial date has not yet been set. The case was the first in two lawsuits currently pending against the county. A second lawsuit from a citizen group was filed against the board March 8th, alleging the Ottawa Impact majority violated the state's Open Meetings Act at its inaugural meeting by communicating and making decisions behind closed doors beforehand. The lawsuit names the board as an entity and doesn't identify individual commissioners. The suit seeks to nullify decisions made by the board January 3rd, arguing Ottawa Impact commissioners were a de facto public body and required to adhere to the Open Meetings Act beginning November 9th, the day after the general election, because during that time they knew they'd hold a majority on the board, discussed county business, made decisions affecting the county, and gave instructions to county staff, which were followed. Kallman, again defending the commission, responded to the lawsuit on April 5th asking for the case to be dismissed. Kallman argued that the complaint, quote, fails to state a claim upon which relief can be granted, end of quote, and that a de facto official is not a legally recognizable label nor position under the law. In an answer to the Open Meetings Act-based lawsuit, Kallman said, quote, Michigan Attorney General Dana Nessel thoroughly investigated defendant's actions complained of in the above complaint and determined that defendant committed no violations of the Open Meetings Act, end of quote. On January 4th, Nessel announced her office was reviewing the actions taken during the meeting to determine if the Open Meetings Act was violated. After a nearly 6-week review, she announced on February 16th that although the Ottawa Impact Commissioner's conduct was a blatant violation of the public's trust in the tenets of government transparency, it did not technically violate state law. Nessel planned to urge state lawmakers to view Ottawa County as a reason to strengthen sunshine laws, which include the Open Meetings Act and the state's Freedom of Information Act. Nessel told the Holland Sentinel, quote, there's no question that there were things that occurred involving this county commission that were really disturbing, end of quote. In an interview with the Holland Sentinel, Nessel noted that Ottawa County residents could still pursue legal action, which could set new precedent for what commissioners can and can't do before taking office. A hearing on that matter has not been scheduled yet. So there you go. Right there is what she said. No, it's not a violation in my eyes, but Ottawa County residents can still sue, and if the court agrees that it is a violation, it's a violation, and that'll be precedent setting. So there it is, and that's how it goes right here on As Ottawa County Turns. And let's get the outro music. So we say goodbye to another episode of Ottawa County. Join us again soon for another edition of As Ottawa County Turns. This program is produced for Big D Entertainment. Stay tuned for the Edge of Blight over most of these stations. The Edge of Blight. Oh, I love it. Something I love even more is when Republicans violate the 11th commandment. As Reagan once said, "Thou shalt never speak ill of another Republican." Well, they've done more than said ill things. It's now gotten physical. I have this story. This is Jonathan Osting writing for Bridge, Michigan. This is dated April 18th out of Lansing, although this event happened in Clear, Michigan. Listen to this, folks. An alleged assault on the eve of a Michigan Republican Party leadership meeting stemmed from an escalating proxy battle between new state Republican Party Chair Kristina Karamo and former ally Matthew DePerno. That's according to party insiders. Authorities say local police were called to a patio bar at the Doherty Hotel in Clare on Friday night, where members of the Michigan Republican Party's new State Central Committee gathered for their first formal meeting the following day. A video recording obtained by Bridge, Michigan shows a confrontation between Kalamazoo Republican Party Chair Kelly Sackett and Macomb County Republican Party Secretary Melissa Pelis. After they exchanged words, Sackett appeared to knock a cigarette and phone from the hand of Pelis, who responded by thrusting an open hand at Sackett's head. Sackett told Bridge she filed a police complaint over the incident but declined further comment. Bridge, Michigan was unable to reach Pelis, and the Macomb County Republican Party did not respond to a request for comment on Tuesday. Don't take my word for it. I saw the video, and we have the audio of it right here. This runs about 1:50. Take a good listen to Republicans violating the 11th commandment.
It's funny, I have a teacher friend who leans left, and he was talking all about the Christian nationalists, and I threw a series of questions. He's like, "Hey, I'm a Christian nationalist."
I answered your question.
Damn, what am I supposed to do with that? Right. It's just interesting because they hear these things and they don't think it is.
How many letters you sent out? 22? How many letters you sent out? 22? By the power invested in me? Is that what you said? By the power invested in me?
Let's talk about Macomb County and all.
You're all going to jail. You're all going to go down. All of you are going down. You're so by the power invested in me. By the power invested in me. By the power invested in me.
Are you an attorney?
By the power vested in me, you are no longer a delegate. Is that what you said? By the power vested in me, you're no longer a delegate.
Get your cigarette out of here. Get your cigarette out.
Now we got a problem. Now we got a problem. Now we got a problem. Move along. Move along.
You have a leave. Right now. This door. Right now. No, I'm.
I love this. This is great stuff. This could be Girls Gone Wild. This could be cat fights. Who knows? Yeah, there we go. Republican cat fights, or Q cat fights. Cat spelled with a Q. Oh my God. The women who represent competing factions in the Michigan Republican Party appear to be arguing over an alleged move by Sackett to purge Karamo loyalists from the Kalamazoo Republican Party. DePerno, an attorney who ran against Karamo for state party chair and is now defending the Kalamazoo Republican Party in a lawsuit filed by two other women forced from the county party's executive committee, said that Pelis is a, quote, Karamo sycophant who was there, it appears, to intentionally harass Sackett, end of quote. DePerno added, quote, there's big internal disputes within the party right now, and Karamo has done nothing to bring the party together. And how could she after she ran on a platform for the chair to divide the party? Her platform was to burn it down to eliminate the people who don't agree with her. End of quote. So this is even getting ugly between DePerno and Karamo. The Michigan Republican Party did not respond to requests for comment, but Karamo supporters contend DePerno is sowing divisions in an attempt to undermine the new leadership and encourage a revolt. Ken Byer, the new chair of the Michigan Republican Party's 4th Congressional District Committee in West Michigan, unfortunately, which is my district, said, quote, the people that say we need to unite the most are the ones that are dividing us the most. Matt DePerno is a sore loser trying to keep us from succeeding and advancing, end of quote. I love this. This is beautiful stuff. Byer accused DePerno of trying to sabotage Karamo, suggesting he wants the Michigan Republican Party to fail so that the Republican National Committee will decide to, quote, step in and take over the party and place Matt into Karamo's position, end of quote. The Friday night altercation appeared to stem from the Kalamazoo feud that was referenced by Pelis, who is part of a Macomb Republican Party leadership team that backed Karamo for state chair at the February convention. Before things turned physical, Pelis shouted at Sackett about 22 letters the Kalamazoo Republican Party chair allegedly sent to elected precinct delegates last week, informing them they have been removed from those local posts. Bridge, Michigan obtained a copy of one of those letters, and we actually have a copy of it right here. It's addressed Dear, redacted the name that this was addressed to. The letter reads, with the authority vested in my capacity as county party chair for the Kalamazoo County Republican Committee, the KGOP, you are hereby notified that you have been removed as a Kalamazoo County Republican Party delegate for whatever area. Most appreciative, Kelly Sackett, Chairwoman, Kalamazoo County Republican Committee. So that's the letter. Along with those letters, there was also a memo to a local clerk naming 2 precinct delegates that Sackett said were no longer delegates. The alleged delegate purge followed the recent censure and removal of 3 Karamo loyalists from the Kalamazoo Republican Party Executive Committee. 2 of those local Republicans sued Sackett and the county party in late March after she accused them of orchestrating a coup ahead of the February state convention where Karamo defeated DePerno. The lawsuit also alleges DePerno was illegally appointed to the Kalamazoo Republican Party Executive Committee. Byer, the 4th Congressional District Chair who supported Karamo at the convention, said that if Sackett and DePerno can get away with removing political opponents, local chairs elsewhere in Michigan could follow suit. Byer told Bridge, quote, I was a great fan of Matt. I'm not his enemy, but now that I see how he's acting, I'm relieved that he lost. End of quote. Man, they're all sniping at each other and backbiting. This is great. DePerno told Bridge the ongoing Kalamazoo litigation, quote, may set precedent across the state as to the power of the delegate, end of quote, and grassroots activists. DePerno added, quote, there's those who claim the delegates have all the power. They can stand up and scream at everyone. They can overthrow county board chairs out of their position. And then there's others of us who take a more, I think, moderate approach, which is delegates have a role at county and district conventions, but policy needs to be set by people in leadership. End of quote. Karamo and DePerno are both prominent 2020 election deniers who shared the ballot in 2022 as the Michigan Republican Party nominees for Secretary of State and Attorney General, respectively. Both of them were endorsed by Donald Trump but lost to Democrats in November. Trump endorsed DePerno for state party chair, but Karamo prevailed at a February convention where she appealed to grassroots delegates who now control the Michigan Republican Party by touting her refusal to concede the 2022 election, despite a 615,349 vote loss to Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson. Jocelyn Benson kicked her ass hard. And Karamo's delusional. You know who she is? Yeah, right there she is. In February, it was DePerno who refused to concede what he called a fraudulent convention vote. In an interview this week, he alleged Karamo had campaign staff, quote, in the pits counting ballots, end of quote, at the Lansing Center. He added, quote, there's no way to ensure the actual vote count, end of quote. DePerno is now fighting a seemingly separate battle in Kalamazoo County Circuit Court that he acknowledges is actually related. There, he is defending Sackett and the county party against a lawsuit filed by Sabrina Pritchett Evans and Kimberly Harris, local Republicans who sued in late March as they faced ouster from the Kalamazoo Republican Party's executive committee. In the suit, the women alleged the county party committed libel and slandered them in censure motions and press releases posted online. Pritchett Evans, who is black, also acknowledged Kalamazoo Republican Party officials discriminated and openly mocked her because of her race. The county party, through DePerno, has aggressively disputed those claims, but both sides agree the infighting is tied to a congressional district delegate election meeting on February 17th, one day before the state convention where Karamo was elected. Pritchett Evans, a Karamo supporter, alleges Sackett attempted to push her own hand-picked candidates for congressional district and state central committee positions instead of publicly nominating them. So Pritchett Evans and others moved to amend the congressional district rules, claiming Sackett had previously violated Michigan law and Republican Party bylaws by appointing DePerno and others to statutory executive committee positions reserved for elected officials. As a result, the county party censured both and stripped them of their local membership. The Kalamazoo Republican Party accused Harris of assaulting someone at an April 10th meeting. Harris declined to discuss the allegations or litigation. Pritchett Harris told Bridge that police twice prevented her from attending Kalamazoo Republican Party meetings. She argued that Sackett and DePerno are trying to kick out anyone who disagrees with them. Pritchett Harris said, quote, I've never experienced something that I would say is so unethical, non-professional, and unlawful. I've been on many boards over 30-something years, and I've never experienced anything like this. End of quote. Sackett and DePerno counter that Pritchett Evans and Harris were part of a coup d'etat on February 17th that allowed all 4th Congressional District Republican delegates to vote on Michigan Republican Party Central Committee positions reserved for the county, diluting the voice of the Kalamazoo Republican Party in a way that helped Pritchett Evans and others aligned with Karamo. In an apparent allusion to Karamo's religious background, DePerno claimed in a court filing that the women are among a series of anarchist-minded delegates in the Kalamazoo Republican Party who are focused less on raising money and winning elections than they are on pushing a, quote, radical agenda through a Christian-only cult mentality that will purify the party, end of quote. So now even the Christians are fighting each other. This is beautiful. This is great. Sackett has already asked Karamo and the state party to intervene twice by letter, according to court filings, but Karamo has not responded, according to DePerno. A judge last week rejected the plaintiff's request for a temporary restraining order, and the county party proceeded to remove both Pritchett Evans and Harris from the executive committee. But the case is still active, with an evidentiary hearing set for May 22nd. The lawsuit seeks a declaratory judgment that the ouster was illegal, along with at least $25,000 in punitive compensation, attorney's fees, and any other relief the court deems just and proper. The plaintiffs are seeking a jury trial, but it's possible the Michigan Republican Party could intercede to resolve the Kalamazoo delegate divide before then. That is according to attorney James A. Thomas, who is representing the plaintiffs. Of the local litigation, Thomas said, quote, "It's only giving each other a black eye. You have two sides to the story, so both sides think they're right." End of quote. Like I said, I love it when Republicans throw out the 11th commandment, thou shalt never speak ill of another Republican. Beautiful, beautiful stuff. I love it. I'm in a great mood, so let's get on to our next segment.
Stop. Hammer time.
Oh, yeah, it's hammer time. It is time to drop the hammer on the douchebag of the week. And we've got two winners for you this week. And when we have two winners, Wade Garrett chimes in.
The double douche.
Who is that guy?
Gentlemen,
Wade Garrett.
holy sh**. Exactly right.
Yeah, Wade Garrett serves up winner number one this week. Jenison Public Schools board member Donna Mooney. She spoke to the Ottawa County Board of Commissioners at their meeting on April 11th, and she had some really interesting comments regarding Christianity, diversity, equity, and inclusion. She basically said, if you're not Christian and white, you can move. She said that Christians have the right to live among themselves and basically push everybody else out. Don't take my word for it. I've got the audio of the meeting. This runs about 1:50. You need to take a good listen to this. This is unbelievable.
If I wanted to live in a progressive city, I would have chosen that. People watching this meeting are free to move where you feel you belong. This is the freedom of choice we all enjoy in this country, and conservative Christians, who make up a very diverse population, are just as entitled to live comfortably in their majority communities as any other group without having the values of others forced upon them. Some Native Americans live on reservations with other Native Americans. Some who are Muslim live in Muslim majority communities, and the Amish live in communities with other Amish. It's human nature for people to want to live with others who share their values. I'd like to know if the self-righteous who condemn and disparage conservative Christians by branding them as racist for rejecting the teachings and institutions of Marxism and DEI are moving into Native American and Muslim communities and demanding they diversify with a progressive agenda. We all have a constitutional right to the pursuit of life, liberty, and happiness, and nobody has to accept anything they don't agree with. I would rather see the money that was spent on the DEI department spent on constitutional programs instead. The number one definition of nationalism from Merriam-Webster is the loyalty and devotion to a nation. Some people twist the terms Christian and nationalism against this board and their supporters in derogatory and demeaning ways meant to demoralize and delegitimize those who have stood up for their representation in this country and county. I will never apologize for my faith in Jesus Christ and my love for America, and I will continue to stand for what I believe is right for all people and for those who made the ultimate sacrifice so I can be here to speak. Thank you.
Again, I'm reminding you, this is a Jenison Public Schools board member. She is an elected school board member that's probably going to start with pulling books out of the library and telling teachers what they can and can't teach. I have a word for Donna Mooney. She is a... So winner number one, Donna Mooney. Winner number two this week, Miller Knoll CEO Andy Owen. She has really stepped into this one. This is Tom Dunn writing for boingboing.com. This is dated Monday, April 17th. Andy Owen, CEO of furniture company Miller Knoll, took home about $5 million in compensation in 2022, about $3.1 million of which came from a performance-based bonus. In a recent company-wide Zoom call, Owen answered some questions from her employees. One worker in particular raised the concern of, how can we stay motivated if we're not going to get a bonus? What can we do? What can we do? Owen's response was certainly an interesting strategy in employee motivation. Don't take my word for it. Once again, we have the audio from the video of this Zoom call. This runs about 1:20. This is why I get on here every week and say, eat the rich. Not figuratively, I mean literally. Boil them and eat them. Here's the clip.
Great question, Chris. And, a lot of questions came through about how can we stay motivated if we're not going to get a bonus? What can we do? What can we do? Some of them were nice and some of them were not so nice. So I'm going to address this head on. The most important thing we can do right now is focus on the things that we can control. None of us could have predicted COVID. None of us could have predicted supply chain. None of us could have predicted bank failures. But what we can do is stay in front of our customers, provide the best customer service we can, get our orders out our door, treat each other well, be kind, be respectful, focus on the future because it will be bright. It's not good to be in a situation we're in today, but we're not going to be here forever. It is going to get better. So lead by example, treat people well, talk to them, be kind, and get after it. Don't ask about what are we going to do if we don't get a bonus. Get the damn $26 million. Spend your time and your effort thinking about the $26 million we need and not thinking about what you're going to do if we don't get a bonus. All right? Can I get some commitment for that? I would appreciate that. I had an old boss who said to me one time, you can visit Pity City, but you can't live there. So people, leave Pity City. Let's get it done. Thank you. Have a great day.
There it is, folks. By the way, at the end of this video, which you can't see, she puts her hands in the air, does a little flash hand deal, and goes boom. Doesn't say the word boom, but she mouths the word boom, like she's dropping the dynamite. Boom goes the dynamite, or boom, she's dropping the mic on this. Let me drop the mic on Andy Owen. I'll use the same word with her that I used with Donna Mooney, and that is... You are a... Continuing the article, according to Vice, Owen's company has struggled a bit in the wake of office investment changes brought on by the COVID-19 pandemic. Here's how Vice has reported this. This has led to a period of disruption, as Miller Knoll itself recently put it, which led Herman Miller to acquire Knoll, one of its top competitors, in 2021 for $1.8 billion and formed the newly created Miller Knoll to better weather the changes brought on by the COVID-19 pandemic. Knoll's then CEO stepped down as a result of the transaction, placing Owen, then CEO of Herman Miller, in charge of the newly formed furniture giant. Since then, Owen has tried to cut costs in a variety of ways as the share price plunged. The company announced earlier this month that it would close a manufacturing plant in Wisconsin and lay off 162 employees, and otherwise shifted its focus to more hybrid collaborative work environments and online sales. That's how Vice has reported it. Back to the Boing Boing story. The company has since issued a statement on the video saying, quote, Andy fiercely believes in this team and all we can accomplish together and will not be dissuaded by a 90-second clip taken out of context and posted on social media. End of quote. Oh, really? No, I think the 90-second clip is in context. I really do. And we have a follow-up to this story. This is Cassandra Leibrink writing for the Holland Sentinel. This is dated April 19th out of Zeeland. By the way, Miller Knoll, headquartered right in Zeeland, Michigan, just outside of Holland, Michigan. Miller Knoll employees were threatened with termination for speaking to media about controversial comments from the company's CEO that went viral this week. That's according to an employee who was granted anonymity by the Sentinel to protect their job. The employee wrote in a message Wednesday, April 19th, quote, we have a meeting at the beginning of every shift. Last night, the comments were brought up in the meeting, and they said if anybody spoke out, it wouldn't be good for them and they could be terminated. End of quote. Chris Marubio, a spokesperson for Miller Knoll, told the Sentinel on Wednesday that was false. Yeah. She said, quote, "The first thing I would say is nobody has been directed to do that. It is not a company policy. It's not something that we're doing. So that's wrong and false." End of quote. The global furniture manufacturer's CEO Andy Owen found herself in hot water this week over comments she made during a Zoom call about employee bonuses. Skipping down a little bit, according to an article from Fortune, Owen joined the company in 2018 after a long career at Gap. Most social media viewers of the video chided Owen for being tone deaf to the needs of employees who make far less than she does. Owen, who describes herself as a defender of equity and inclusion in her private Instagram account, receives the bulk of her pay package in incentive-based compensation, like most CEOs, according to Fortune magazine. They report for the fiscal year to May 2022, this amounted to $3.9 million, which came on top of Owen's $1.1 million in fixed salary. So even the number was wrong, according to Boing Boing. She actually got a bigger bonus, almost $4 million. Marubio told the Sentinel bonuses for this year have not been determined because the fiscal year doesn't end until May, and added Owens' bonus hasn't been determined either. I bet not. I'm pretty sure it's listed in her contract what her bonus is, and she gets it regardless. She said, quote, "We all follow the same bonus determination. It happens after financial results are reported for the full year." Yeah. Bullshit. My opinion, bullshit. In a video the Miller Knoll employees shared with the Sentinel of the company's March town hall, workers are told order levels were down over the quarter across all areas of the business. Employees are told in the video, quote, "And unfortunately, that reduced profit level has put a ton of pressure on our progress toward earning a bonus payout this year. So we've got a lot of work to do in quarter 4 to turn that around." End of quote. Employees are told they're short about $26 million from the target number required to earn a minimum bonus payout. The employee told the Holland Sentinel, quote, "As a whole, corporate structure is parasitic in this way. The rich always get richer and the poor always get more poor. They have a $1.1 million salary and getting a 355% bonus. Yet she's denying us the sliver we get, maybe 5% max on a $45,000 salary. I get the CEOs get astronomical bonuses, but when and where does it stop?" End of quote. Hey, that employee's correct. During a morning meeting Wednesday, according to the employee, workers grilled a speaker over the viral comments, but were told the speaker, quote, "doesn't understand that part of the business, so he can't speak to it. It definitely feels like they are playing with us and enjoying every minute." End of quote. Yeah, I can agree there. But officials at Miller Knoll want the public to know the original clip lacked context. Again, I say bullshit. It is in context. Marubio said, quote, 90 seconds out of a 75-minute internal meeting where we talked about a lot of positive things at the company, product launches, brand campaigns, connecting with customers, and business results was leaked. And on its own, it's misleading. It doesn't represent the full 75 minutes. End of quote. Lady, you're so full of shit, your eyes are browner than mine. According to a report from MLive and the Grand Rapids Press, Owen issued a written apology to employees. She wrote, quote, "I want to be transparent and empathetic as I continue to reflect on this instance. I feel terrible that my rallying cry seemed insensitive. What I hoped would organize the team to meet a challenge we've met many times before landed in a way that I did not intend, and for that I am sorry. Nothing will lessen the power and strength of our collective team. My appreciation for each of you is huge, and I will continue to do everything I can to help us meet our shared goals. Thank you for your hard work, your grace, and for the commitment you show to one another and our company every single day. End of quote. No, lady, you are sorry that you got caught berating your employees when you make $4 million a year in bonuses, not including your salary. Once again, boil them and eat them, boil them and eat them. I mean it. So to Donna Mooney and Andy Owen, we have this message for you.
Don't be a douchebag.
Yeah, you got that right. Yeah, both of you need to stop being prissy douchebags. Absolutely insane. Then we got this story. This just came across the Associated Press wire. This is Andrew Dalton and Morgan Lee out of Santa Fe, New Mexico. Prosecutors in New Mexico plan to drop an involuntary manslaughter charge against actor Alec Baldwin in the fatal 2021 shooting of a cinematographer on the set of the Western film Rust. That is according to Baldwin's attorneys. Baldwin's attorneys Luke Nikas and Alex Spiro said in a statement, quote, "We are pleased with the decision to dismiss the case against Alec Baldwin, and we encourage a proper investigation into the facts and circumstances of this tragic accident." End of quote. Baldwin and the film's weapons supervisor, Hannah Gutierrez Reed, were both charged with involuntary manslaughter in the shooting. Baldwin was pointing a pistol at cinematographer Halyna Hutchins during a rehearsal when the gun went off, killing Hutchins and wounding director Joel Souza. Baldwin has said the gun went off accidentally and that he did not pull the trigger. An FBI forensic report found the weapon could not have fired unless the trigger was pulled. Prosecutors did not immediately comment on the case. It wasn't immediately clear whether charges could be refiled, nor whether the charge would also be dropped against Gutierrez Reed. Her attorney said that they fully expect at the end of this process that Hannah will also be exonerated. Her attorneys Jason Bowles and Todd Bullion said in a statement, quote, "The truth about what happened will come out and the questions that we have long sought answers for will be answered." End of quote. The case against Baldwin had already been diminishing. A weapons charge that could have meant a much longer sentence had already been dismissed, and the first special prosecutor appointed in the case resigned. Rust safety coordinator and assistant director David Halls pled no contest in March to a charge of unsafe handling of a firearm. He received a sentence of 6 months probation, which was suspended. After a scathing safety review by regulators in New Mexico that detailed ignored complaints and misfires before Hutchinson's death in October of 2021, the production company agreed to pay a $100,000 fine. Unbelievable. Once again, different rules for the rich and famous than what we get. And I very quickly want to mention this story. This is Dominic Mastrolangelo writing for The Hill. This was published earlier today. BuzzFeed is shutting down its news division. In a memo to staff obtained by CNN, BuzzFeed chief executive Jonah Peretti said the company would lay off about 15% of its workforce as part of shuttering the news division. I'm going to mourn the death of BuzzFeed News, partly because we use them as a source for some of our topics, but it's another independent media outlet that's gone. And whenever an independent media outlet shutters, it's another step toward the death of democracy. It really is. That's going to wrap things up for this week. I'm Darren Gibson. Please support independent media, the First Amendment, and a woman's right to choose.
The stations that carry Southpaws do not necessarily share the opinions expressed on the show. Southpaws is protected by the First Amendment to the U.S. Constitution and is copyrighted by Big D Entertainment. All rights reserved.